Welcome to the Keeping the Nostalgia Live show. I am your host, Billy Powell. You are probably watching this on YouTube. If you're not, please go to YouTube and type in the Keeping the Nostalgia Live show. Subscribe to our channel. We have video segments on there, interviews from Gene Cady to Kent Benson to Rick Mount to Brandon Brantley, Dave Shellhouse. The list goes on and on. You'll find a couple rock stars within there too, and a couple artists and a couple authors in there too. Also too, you can hear all this on audio if you'd like at anchor.fm/KTNA, Keeping the Nostalgia Alive. Anchor.fm/KTNA, I'll get it right. And joining us today is Jay Frye, a Greensburg Pirate, a DePauw Tiger who was put into their Athletic Hall of Fame in 2001. Used to own the Fort Wayne Fury of the CBA. He's had his hands in a lot of stuff, and today we're going to talk to him. And Jay, thank you so much for spending some time with us. I know you'd rather be on the back nine or the front nine whacking a golf ball, but we thank you for your time.
Well, thanks, Billy. The guys have already played the front nine. They're waiting. They're in the clubhouse waiting for me to show up for the back nine. So they like the money I usually lose to them. So they wait for me.
Jay, what was the first sport that you were introduced to?
Probably the very first sport was basketball. My father was a really good basketball player in the 1940s at Greencastle, and then he went on and played in the service because he left and went early to because of World War II, and then came back and refereed. And so my earliest memories of any sport was riding in the back of my dad's car. My mom would pack sandwiches, and we would go all over Indiana, and he'd sit me on the bench, usually with the home team. And the most vivid memory was he taking me to Crispus Attucks and sitting me on the bench there, and Mr. Crow taking me down at halftime. I was only about 5 or 6 years old at that time, and so I got introduced to a pretty good team there really quick. But basketball was my first and has always remained my favorite sport, as old as I am now.
Was that at Butler Fieldhouse that you with Ray Crow and the Attucks Tigers?
No, that was at their facility, and as I recall, but gosh, that was so many years ago. So that was the mid 1950s, and they were great. I remember going to several. He refereed a lot in the South Central Conference then, and so saw a lot of the games down there. And I do remember he refereed a game, and I got to see Ray Pavey. He refereed a game with Kokomo and Jimmy Rail. So I mean, I saw some great players and great facilities back there when I was growing up.
So you actually got to see the Church Street shootout?
No, I didn't see that game. No, I didn't see that game. But my dad had refereed both their games earlier than that, and so I got to see them both. And then you know, I'm from Greencastle, not Greensburg, and so I saw a lot of great games. The Putnam County teams were great back then. Cloverdale, Bainbridge, Greencastle were all very good.
Did I say Greensburg?
Yeah.
Oh man, you know what gets me is that Greensburg is in my head because they have that damn tree growing out of the
tree out of the top of the courthouse. Yeah.
You got Greenfield, you got Greensburg, you got Greencastle, you got Greenwood. I knew I was going to screw up those greens. My apologies.
Got to get your green straight. Yeah.
And of course, when basketball season was over, I take it one of your next favorite sports was baseball.
Yeah, I played baseball. Gosh, I know I started in Little League when I was 6 years old. I got in. You're not supposed to get in until 8, but I got in at 6 years old. They kind of bent the rules a little bit, and so I had a good career in baseball. Did really well in high school. We had a good team at Greencastle, and then at DePauw played, we had a really good team, played in the ICC, which was that was one of the great conferences that I grew up watching. Matter of fact, in basketball and baseball, that was in Greencastle, the ICC was a big deal, and rightfully so, because there's so many great players came out of that in both sports. That the ICC was really big to me when I was growing up.
When you were a youngster, did you have a favorite Major League Baseball team that you followed or listened to on the radio?
Chicago White Sox. I was in Little League. I was on the White Sox, and funny story. When I was 11 years old, my parents took my cousin and I to a White Sox game, and so I was kind of bashful, but I went down and we got there really early, and I was at the edge of the dugout, and J.C. Martin came up to the edge of the dugout, and I knew all the White Sox players. He and Early Wynn were playing catch, and J.C. Martin comes up. I asked for his autograph, and he said no. And so I turned around and walked up, just totally heartbroken, sat down, watched the game, depressed the whole time because he told me no. And then many years later, we live in Sarasota, Florida. There's a guy named Gary Peters who pitched for the White Sox, was a great pitcher. Well, every Monday night we would meet at a little bar on Siesta Key, and Gary Peters was part of our group. And I told Gary Peters this story that J.C. Martin turned me down and had a terrible effect on me. And the next week when we met, he handed me a letter from J.C. Martin and a signed baseball. J.C. Martin signed the card and sent a letter apologizing to me 50 years after the fact. So he made up for the mistake or the misfortune I had from 50 years before. So that was a pretty neat thing. But yeah, the White Sox, I followed them. I Nellie Fox, Louis Aparicio, Ted Klaczewski, J.C. Martin, Early Wynn, all those guys, Gary Peters. So I was a big White Sox fan.
I always thought Ted was cool because he cut his arms out because of those big cannons that he had up there for his arms.
Yeah, cut those sleeves up high and
yeah. It's always interesting in chatting with you guys, and I'm sure it's about location and where you grow up. But me growing up in Indianapolis, of course, I'm a Reds fan because the Indianapolis Indians were in Indianapolis, right. And Reds would every baseball season. So I'm a glutton for real success since 1990.
Right. Yeah, they've been on a massive struggle since then. But yeah, I understand the Indianapolis Indians used to come over there. That was a big part of our lives when we were kids, to get to go to one at Victory Field and watch the Indians. That was big time to me.
I remember the announcer called it Beautiful Bush Stadium, named after Oni Bush. Yeah. Jay, so do you still have that baseball of his autograph?
Of which? No, I still have his baseball card. It was a baseball
card.
I still have it. Sure. Yeah.
Did you collect baseball cards when you were a youngster?
Oh yeah, I collected baseball cards. My mom fortunately kept those cards. I never knew the value of the cards, but one of my friends came to our house. This is years after we were married, years in Fort Wayne, and he said, "You still have that baseball card collection?" I said, "Yeah." I went down and got it, and so he said, "Do you have any Mickey Mantle cards?" I had all the Mickey Mantle cards, rookie card and everything. I didn't know of any value that whatsoever. He did, I didn't. So I gave him my Mickey Mantle cards and wish the heck I had them back now. I'm sure he's driving a lot better car and everything now since I gave him.
Very cool. What kind of athletic history did Greencastle have in basketball or in athletics before you actually started school there?
Well, it goes way back. There's a guy named Jess McAnally, which was a huge name. he's in the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame. And then they had, well, my dad was a great player in the 1940s. Like I said, he was a starter his freshman, junior, and senior year, and I think he led the South Central Conference in scoring, but he had completed his high school hours, and he went to the war and didn't play his senior year. If he'd have played his senior year, I mean, he would have. I still have some of the articles of what a good scorer he was, and kind of a showman, and so I heard all the stories when I was growing up about him. And then they had some good teams in the 50s and 60s. Then Dave McCracken came to town, and Dave McCracken, Branch's son from IU, and he just changed the whole culture of the basketball there, and went way down into lower grades and got us all playing together and organized, from the 7th grade on. And he was just a major factor in my life, the way he motivated us and gave me an opportunity to play. So despite being small, he never made that an issue. As a matter of fact, when at the banquet our senior year, he said, "You may be he wrote me a little note on a card. He said, "You may be 5'7", but you play 6'7", and I always remembered that. But he was just a major factor, impression-wise, on my life.
And what was it like? I mean, I'd imagine your freshman year. What was you did 3 sports in high school, right? So baseball, basketball, and
Baseball, basketball, and football. I played football.
And was football 11-man football then?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know some schools did that. What was it? 8-man football?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We were 11-man football. We played in the Western Indiana Conference, and it was a good conference with the Terre Haute schools and Linton, Brazil. We had a good conference, and had 2 really good seasons my junior and senior years. So it was a fun time.
It sounds like Coach McCracken kind of started a feeder system before the feeder system was really big.
Yeah, he did. He was very organized with it, and he would show up. It wasn't like he just started the system, but he organized the coaches in the junior high, and had a great organized system right then. Then the football coach there that came in our junior year was a guy named Bob Bergman, and he really changed things, because Greencastle would win 1 or 2 games a year prior to that. He came in, and I think we won 8 games one year, 9 the next, and then he moved on. He got another great opportunity to coach, but yeah, it was a fun time. I played in high school with a guy named Dwayne Norris, who's the best athlete that I ever played with, and he went on and played at basketball at Eastern New Mexico, and they won the NAIA national championship. He was just a spectacular 3-sport guy there as well. But in small schools, we all three sports wasn't unusual.
In all 3 of those sports, your freshman year, did you have success right off the bat?
Yeah, I guess personally I did. I played on baseball varsity my freshman year, played all 4 years, and made all conference teams, and we ended up, I think our senior year was the first year of the state tournament that they had in baseball, and so we had a good run in that, and got beat. I don't know whether it's a regional or semi-state, but we got beat in that and got eliminated. But we won the conference, and just had a great time. I had a lot of opportunities to go play baseball anywhere I wanted, but I didn't want to do that because I wanted to play basketball in the ICC. That was a big thing to me.
Who was in your guys' sectional at Greencastle?
Cloverdale, Bainbridge, Fillmore, Russellville, North Salem. Bainbridge and Cloverdale were really good. I mean, Bainbridge Bainbridge was incredible. They had Larry and Norm Steele and Freddie Cox, who was 7 foot tall. I mean, Larry went on and, played at Kentucky and then played for the Portland Trail Blazers. His brother Norm went on a real good career at Indiana Central. I think Freddie Cox on that team went and played at Ole Miss, I believe. They had Cloverdale, had Rick Ford, who played at IU. Rod Hervey that went played at Indiana State very successfully, and Cloverdale made the Final Four one year back then and got beat. We made it to the semi-state my senior year and got beat. Worst. I'm all these years past that, and still that's the one thing that gets me every time. We lost at North Miami and should never have lost that game, and it's lived with me forever. I played 100 and some games after that in college, and I still remember that game more than anything.
What was Coach McCracken like? Was he kind of like a father figure to you also? What kind of coach was he?
He was boisterous, he was loud. I mean, he firm, there was no nonsense. I mean, he was so motivational. If he walked in right now and told me to run through the door, I'd run through the door. I mean, he had such an effect on me, but he was so positive all the time and just had a lot of belief in us. We played, biggest guy we had was a guy named Terry Ross, who was 6'3" and a great shooter, but we never got out rebounded. Dwayne Norris on that team was the most unbelievable rebounder. He's 6'2", and there were several games he had over 30 rebounds, but it was fun. It was funny because he would rebound, throw the outlet pass, and then on the fast break, and I would throw the pass to him to score on the other end. He ran the floor so well. It was incredible. But McCracken's probably the most motivational person. My dad was really motivational, but McCracken had more effect on me than anyone ever in basketball.
Would his dad come to any of the games? Did you beat Branch?
He came. He and his wife, I think it was Mary McCracken, would come to the games a few times. Mary would come a lot, but Branch McCracken would be there a few times. Every once in a while, we'd look up at practice. He'd be sitting in the stands and come and talk to us all. He was, what a success he was. And but I can't imagine that he was a better coach than his son. Dave McCracken was an unbelievable coach.
How long was Coach McCracken there before you got there, and how long did he stay at Greencastle?
He came when I was in junior high school, and then he stayed there, probably for another 4 or 5 years after I left, or after I graduated. It was funny, in Greencastle, they had the downtown gymnasium, and it was every game, they were lined up sold out to the arena every time. They ended up building a new arena up at the school that I think it seats maybe 7,000 people, 6,500, 7,000 people, and it just was never the same aura, never the same excitement in the town after they moved out of the old downtown gym.
I was talking to someone the other day, and it's kind of 9 out of the top 10 biggest gyms in the United States are all in the state of Indiana.
You're right. I saw that. Jim Klein sent me the article. Jim, obviously DePauw player before me, and I used to look up to he and Jack Hogan. Jack Hogan was always my idol, and tried to pattern myself after playing like he did. He was an incredible player for his size, and he just was such an inspiration to me, and still is. I've fortunately gotten to have some time to spend with him and meet him and talk to him a lot and email each other. But he was probably one of the most motivational people I ever watched play basketball.
When you said Bainbridge was in your guys' sectional, and I may be saying something wrong here, but was Coach Rady the coach at that time?
Pat Rady, yes. Yeah,
Oh,
they had a
very.
great team. I mean, it's hard to believe that a town of that size could be that good. I know a lot of stories in Indiana about Milan and how good Milan was, but I would put Cloverdale and Bainbridge in that same class anytime. And they're super talented. You don't see many schools of that size send the players that those two places sent to play college basketball on a major level. And so it was impressive what those coaches that came into those towns did at that time.
You know, I think it was maybe not the norm, but well, when I was in high school, we used to travel a lot. We'd go to Rockville, we'd go to Gary, we'd go to Vincennes, we'd go to Richmond. Did you guys travel a lot in your 4 years of playing at Greencastle, or was most of your stuff local?
No, we traveled quite a bit. We played Broad Ripple, who's and Indianapolis Hal. Played Muncie Central. We beat Muncie Central at Muncie Central, which was a big deal. I mean, that was going into a place that was, we couldn't imagine going up to Muncie Central and playing, and played all the Terre Haute teams, Garfield and Gershmeyer. Remember Coach Howard Sharp, and what a character he was. Fun to watch him on the sidelines when we were playing. And I mean, we played Plainfield and went, I think, as far south as Lenton was probably the furthest we went south. But yeah, we traveled a good little bit.
I'd imagine, since my athletic director and the basketball coach at the time when you guys would play Broad Ripple was Gene Ring, who played for Dave's dad
Right.
at
Yeah.
IU.
Yeah, that's what I remember. Yes. Yeah. And
It was always
Broad Ripple had a great history there.
and he was a multi-sport athlete, but he never talked about himself. I wish I would have inquired and pried more to get more out of him, but of course he's not with us any longer. But he really sparked this passion that I have, that I do now, with keeping the nostalgia alive.
Well, it's awesome what you're doing. Indiana basketball was so much always has been a part of my life. And from the time I can remember to present day, it's such a great experience that I had, and wish I would have never changed the class system or introduced the class system there. But times change, and I guess there is maybe a reason for it. I don't understand it yet, but my gosh, the excitement of the drawings for the sectionals and the state tournament the way it was just a phenomenal experience.
Beginning that senior season, I know you talked about how disappointing it was to lose that last game. Did you guys think you had something special going on beginning of that senior season, and thought, you know what, I think we can win state championship?
Well, absolutely. I mean, that's what I dreamed of. My backyard, playing in the snow and shoveling it off, and playing at night with my dad, shining the car lights out on the basketball court. It was in my mind all the time. But I hit like Bobby Plump. I hit the last shot to win the game. Of course, in the driveway or the backyard, I probably missed that shot about 7 times before I hit it, but always remember the shot I hit. And so that was a dream. We had a great team, and we pressed, we ran, we scored a lot. It was a great fun time, and we believed we could beat anybody then. And we beat a lot of good teams. Crawfordsville was an unbelievably good team. We played them from the 7th grade until my senior year. And every single game we played them was 3-point difference, one way or the other, or less. And we beat them twice. 2 times our senior year, we beat them during the I think it was 79 to 78 and 83 to 82 in the regional at Frankfurt. But they had they had unbelievable talent in both football and basketball back then.
Going to that game that you still think about to this day, what do you think you guys could have done to have moved on?
Well, it's funny, that game was, North Miami coach was a guy that named Jerry Lewis, who's also in Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame. And Coach Lewis and my family in Greencastle, Jerry was from Reelsville, right outside Greencastle. And his family and my family are really close. So I knew him my whole life. And gosh, he coached in Roachdale, Indiana. They were also in our section. I forgot to mention them, with good teams. But anyway, we got beat by his team, and we could have, we pressed them and got the lead at the end of the third quarter, and then we just virtually ran out of gas. They had shots that I still can't get over. They banked them from the top of the key, and things just went in for them, and they didn't go in as much for us. But it was ironic because my wife Cheryl and I moved to Fort Wayne after I got out of graduate school at Ohio State. And Coach Lewis and his wife Sherry, who, like I said, I knew all my life. He had moved to Norwell, was coaching at Norwell High School. So when we moved over to Fort Wayne, Jerry and Sherry asked Cheryl and I to come to dinner at their house. So we did, and I walked in and walked through the garage, and sure enough, he walked me through the garage because there's a great big picture of the North Miami team there. And he ruined my dinner. I had to look at that picture. And of course we talk about it all the time, but he was a great coach, and I followed his team all the way through. And a lot of times, because I did all the sports medicine stuff up there, would follow his games and help kids that got hurt. But he coached great teams. He was a great coach. But I still haven't gotten over that loss. I'm still mad.
I know it's not like it is today, but did you always want to be a DePauw Tiger, or can you remember the first couple schools that wanted you to come to play either football, baseball, or basketball? And why did you choose DePauw?
To me, it was a simple choice, and I can tell you why. Is because I fell in love with the ICC. That was a big deal to me. My dad, we went to all the games at DePauw from the time that I could remember, and seeing Evansville come in with Jerry Sloan and the Humes and wearing the capes and the t-shirt jerseys instead of the regular jerseys was such a thing. Indiana State came in with, when I remember Hollenbeck and Newsom playing there and how great they were. People don't realize, number one, what a great conference that was, and the quality of play in that conference was unbelievable. And it wasn't back then Division I, Division II, Division III. It was small college, major college, but the small college. Butler was so competitive with major college teams. So was Indiana State, Ball State at that time. So to me, we didn't have ESPN. It wasn't, the TV wasn't full of basketball games back then. We'd see Indiana and Purdue games on Channel 4. But I went personally and watched the ICC, and I thought I wanted to play there. I had, like I told you, I had multiple opportunities to go all over the place. I've got the letters still from Southern Cal, Arizona State to play baseball, and it never crossed my mind that I wanted to do anything except play in the ICC. I thought that was great. The only thing I knew about them was ICC basketball, Evansville, Butler, Indiana State, Ball State, Valpo, St. Joe. They were all such good teams and people I watched. That's what I wanted to do. And for football, I did have a Dwayne Norris, who I spoke of before, and I got invited by Coach Pont to come down on a recruiting trip. And I remember him going through the line and stopping and talking to everybody. He came by and shook my hand. He said, the only thing he said, "You're too small, and move right on. And I'll be damned. And that's what my recruiting trip was for football. You're too small. And I always remember that. It was especially funny because I was as tall as he was, and when he went by, but he stopped and talked to Dwayne a lot because he wanted him to play there. I think he just had me come along for the ride, but I was always happy he did that because that motivated the heck out of me when he told me that. Said, I'll show you, I'm gonna play. But like I said before, I went to all the games and I saw DePauw when they were really good, and I watched Jack Hogan and said if he can play and get an opportunity, that's what I want to do.
Also, it didn't hurt. I think, if I'm not mistaken, you lived very close to DePauw also, right?
I lived right off the campus, so I played basketball and behind the what was it, the Frye house had a nice concrete basketball court. I was real close to that. But the janitors at Bowman Gym and would let me in and play all the time in the evenings and Sundays, and so I spent my whole childhood around DePauw campus and playing, and so it was that, and my dad was, no one in our family had ever gone to college before. So my dad always was excited that wanted me to go to DePauw, get a DePauw education, and so there wasn't like, I didn't go on many visits other than IU for that, and got a lot of letters for baseball, but heck, there wasn't great demand for a 5'7" guard in college basketball. I just got a chance there and made the most of it.
Now, if I don't think I'm mistaken, were you allowed to play your freshman year, or was it just a freshman team?
No, it was a freshman team. I played on the freshman team. I wasn't anywhere near good enough to play on the DePauw team my freshman year. Those guys were good. They're more mature. I was always the youngest in my class, and I was a young freshman and I was a young senior, and I wasn't by any means ready to play, but I got to play with my freshman year. We'd scrimmage at varsity, and I learned a lot from a guy named Dale Barrett, who played at Indianapolis Howe. And Dale was such an influential guy to me. He had gotten to play, I think, with Jack before, but I got there. But Dale was one of the smartest players, basketball players, one of the best defensive guards that I ever got to play with, but he was so helpful to me and kind of brought me up there. He was a really good player. He ought to be in the Basketball Hall of Fame in Indiana.
What was it like playing that freshman basketball? Did you feel like you'd made the right choice? Were you just kind of nipping at the heels to get to that sophomore, junior, and senior year?
No, it was a big deal back then at freshman basketball, and I got to go to Hinkle Fieldhouse and play at Butler, and that was a dream. You know, we used to watch the state tournament every year, and growing up, as I was growing up, getting to see that floor and walk out in that gym that was a prized moment for me. And then when I got out there, Billy Shepard kicked my ass, to be blunt. And he's the only guy I always say that did that to me. But no, what a big moment for me to pull up to Hinkle Fieldhouse in our bus. And I mean, it was incredible to walk in there. And it was incredible to me to walk out on that floor. What a moment in my life to be able to do that. Later, I think it was my senior year, I missed a shot for us to beat Butler, and the ball came back to me, and I grabbed it and shot it again and missed it again. We got beat, I think it was 78-76, but the rest of the time, I watched Butler for years, from a time a guy named Jeff Blue from Bainbridge went to Butler. And so I watched Steve Norris and all the, what was it, Eddie Bob, I think his name, anyway, there is with no doubt in my mind that Billy Shepherd is the greatest player that ever played there by far. People don't realize, I guarded 8 times, and it's just incredible how good he was. So
You know, your comment about being able to go to Butler and play on at Butler Fieldhouse on the Hinkle floor, and that's called Hinkle now. But did you enjoy going to Evansville and Indiana?
Oh, Evansville was great. I had we played against, their team was really good when we were there. Don Busey and Steve Welmer and Rick Coffey. They were really, really good. And so it was fun playing against them. That's I guess one of my better moments was I got 18 points against them one night. Don Busey's guarding me, and I scored 18. I think he had 22 or 24, but that was one of the better games. My trip to Evansville in baseball was probably the highlight of my college baseball career. I homered 3 times in a doubleheader and had I think it was 3 homers and 2 or 3 doubles, and for some reason I liked going to Evansville to play. I don't know why, but playing at St. Joe and Rensselaer, and it was like a Quonset hut, but it was loud. It was unbelievable, and it was just a Butler Fieldhouse and Evansville were probably my 2 favorite places to go.
Jay, I know there wasn't any NIL money when you played college athletics.
Yeah. Can
What
believe
did you do? Isn't that crazy, by the way?
Yeah. I worked in the training room during, I played 2 sports there at DePauw, and the rest of the time, a couple days a week, I went to the training room, which really shaped, that's what got me into sports medicine or physical therapy. And sports medicine was going in there. DePauw had 3 of the greatest trainers. I learned so much from those guys. One was Mickey Cobb, he left DePauw and went to the Kansas City Royals. Then Russ Miller, who was a great trainer, left DePauw and went to University of Michigan forever. And then a guy named John Thatcher went on and went to East Stroudsburg, and then I think he went on to professional sports training. But yeah, I got $50 once a month that my wife, I was married the whole time. I was at DePauw from my freshman year on, and my wife Cheryl worked, and I got my $50 check, and that helped pay our rent. So my NIL money was $50. I was probably overpaid. But it's incredible. They're running college sports with this stuff. It's incredible to me that's going on.
It's going on now. Things are okay now, but I can just see it in 2 or 3 years. It's just going to be it is. I think it's going to be the downfall of college athletics.
It's incredible. Guy, Timmy at Gonzaga, I heard was making $900,000. That's just beyond belief to me. One of my really, really great friends his family is like the Shepherds and the Alfords are 2 of the greatest families in the Indiana basketball. And Steve Alford and I have become close friends, and his wife Tanya. Their family have been great to my family, and his dad Sam, same thing. We have a great relationship, but it's tough. I mean, he's at Nevada, and they try to compete, and what he said, I have to go recruit a player, and then I turn around and I have to go recruit a booster to pay a player. He said the kids, the first question is, what do I get? And he and Craig Neal, who I'm sure you know Craig, both coaching out there. We talk several times a week, and it's a tough thing. There's so much. It's just making more and more inequality between the major booster programs and the programs that aren't so fortunate to have that. But I don't know. I think what happened is that there's been financial cheating with players going on forever. And instead of fixing that, they just legalized it. And so here we are. It's going to be interesting to see what the outcome is with college sports because of that.
I didn't think anything could be worse than the NBA, but I think with the
Yeah.
transfer portal and the NIL money, I think that's worse than the NBA.
Yeah. It's,
And,
it's
what's interesting too, you were talking about the trainers that kind of led your path to, what you do now. When I wasn't a very good basketball player, so I had to find ways to make myself relevant to keep around. So
Yeah.
there was a gentleman named Jack Kramer, and I went to a Kramer sports medicine camp at Indiana University.
Yeah.
And so then that way, the next 2 years, my junior and senior year in high school, I kind of, paid my way to be on the team by being able to wrap ankles and do preventative maintenance on the players.
Well, that's an incredibly important role with any sports team, is having a good athletic trainer, good sports medicine people. It's absolutely top shelf importance. And I've been fortunate to have when I owned the Fury, we had two trainers there that both Tony Harris ended up with the Detroit Pistons and Philadelphia 76ers, and then in with the Phoenix Suns, and then Kevin Kaser, who was another one that moved on into professional sports and has been with a pro hockey team in Chicago for the last several years. So I learned so much to the trainers at DePauw. And then when I moved to Fort Wayne, we tried to get that whole system through all the schools where they have trainers and coverage, and fortunately we were able to do that. And so I'm pretty proud of that, what we accomplished up there.
A classmate of mine is the head trainer for the Philadelphia 76ers, Kevin Johnson.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it was I should have gone that route in college, but I didn't. I went down the history path thinking I was going to coach, and I didn't get my secondary education, and I got stuck in the retail industry for my lifetime.
Yeah. I make a joke now all the time about why I didn't go into coaching, because I had a chance to get a coaching job when I got out of DePauw, but it was for $11,000 a year. And now I wish the heck I'd have done it with the money the coaches are making now. It's incredible, but different. Ended up in a different path and survived for a long time with what I do. But I sure wish I would have coached.
How did you guys travel? Did you guys just travel by bus? Did you guys do any plane travel at all while you were at DePauw?
Oh, we traveled all over the place. We flew all over the place. We played Big Ten school. We played Wisconsin, Illinois while I was there. We played Bucknell, Arizona State. We played a major college schedule, pretty much like Butler did the same thing. They played a lot of the same places, but played in Massachusetts, at the Centrum in Worcester, Massachusetts, and played in Boston, played in Philadelphia, played against Villanova. So that's what I mean. The ICC was not a conference of a small time basketball. It played major college schedules against major college teams, and that was an incredible experience.
During either high school or college, who was the roughest player you had to defend against or go up against that,
Billy Shepard by far. I remember we played at Arizona and Arizona State. Butler played them on the alternate nights. And I think Billy scored over 100 points in those two games against Arizona and Arizona State. This is with no 3-point line. Fortunately, I wasn't guarding those nights, but I do know one time, I think he bust my chops all the time about it. I think he got 43 against me one night. I looked and I got 12. So what's really funny and what's great about sports is that I despise Billy Shepherd when I played. I wanted to kick his hind end, and he kicked mine. And I remember standing at the end of the floor, playing Butler at the end of the floor at DePauw, and I thought I was going to pass out and have a heart attack because I played so hard against him, and still couldn't stop him. But he was incredible. But out of that and all that competitive drive I had against him, he's one of my greatest friends now and has been for 50 years, more than 50 years. And what a great friendship we've had. And he and his wife Connie have been real kind to my wife Cheryl and I. And so it's, that's what's great about sports. You have so many relationships that I've gained through basketball, especially basketball and golf are the two things that have opened more doors in my life, friendships and anything else I've done.
When did you pick up the golf game?
My dad was a pretty good golfer, and so I'd play in the backyard. My mom or my grandmother and grandfather had a big place, and I hit balls all over my dad would give me balls, and every once in a while I'd go play with him. But when I got to graduate school in Ohio State, I played the Ohio State golf course. I started playing a lot there, and then I just, golf. I realized I could be competitive forever, and I just really started practicing and got with good players and got instruction from I don't know if you remember the name Billy Crasserton, played on the tour, and he's on ESPN now doing a lot of golf work. But he and I were great friends when I moved to Fort Wayne, and Billy's dad, Bill Crasser, just took me aside, and for whatever reason, he taught me how to play, and I got to play in a lot of stuff and there's such great golfers from Indiana that I got to play with and against, guys like Ken Franzen, Jerry Nelson, Spider Miller, Mike Bell, who's such a great golfer. Mike and I still play together down here in Sarasota, and Mike just won I was in Texas, and I got on my phone, it comes on a 75-year-old man wins the Indiana Mid Amateur Golf Tournament. I go, holy Christ, there's only one guy who could, and it was Mike Bell. That's such an accomplishment. It's incredible. But golf has opened doors to me to so many neat people and got me in places I never would have gotten otherwise.
Could you have possibly played professional baseball?
I can't believe I didn't. I thought I had the numbers. That's all I planned on doing in my adult life. I mean, that's maybe I made a mistake by going and playing basketball, but and not accepting those others. But I thought I had a great chance to play, and I remember after that there was a Detroit Tigers scout at our game. It talked to me in the dressing room after we played Evansville, last two doubleheader, or last two games really. I played at DePauw was against Evansville, and then I was on Saturday, and I told you I had a great game there. And so the scout went with me, told me what great barrel speed. I had never heard that term before, but said what great barrel speed I had. And I always hit a lot of home runs growing up, and then had that game, and then went to Purdue and had played doubleheader and great game there. And guy was talking to me, I can't even remember his name now, but he called my home and talked to my dad and said they've determined I was too small. And then I watch, I grow up now and I watch Freddie Patek and guys like that play, and I'm going, Jesus Christ, I could have. But life has, destiny. It's funny because my best friend down here that I play golf with every day is Carlton Fisk. And I tell him every day if that ball would have gone 4 inches to the left, nobody ever heard of him. and bust his chops. But yeah, the thing that people don't know, wave it. He does it when he does it when he hits a golf ball. He stands there and waves. But he is such a great person. His wife, Linda, we're great friends, and he's been through some tough times physically lately, but what a great person and great family he has. But God, again, golf, I've friendship with Mike Ruzioni that's gone forever because of golf, and probably my all-time greatest friend in my life, Scott Hamilton, and I have a great friendship with our families and everything because of golf. So, I mean, that's just incredible how many great people I've met through that sport.
You're getting ready to graduate from DePauw, and of course, we talked about the possibility of maybe you coaching. Tell us about the path you take after DePauw.
Well, I got accepted. I just happened to apply to the physical therapy school. The trainer at DePauw at the time told me to do that. And I got accepted. I was an out-of-state student, and somehow I got in there and made it through that. And then my wife and I, we packed a car up after my last final because I took a job in Fort Wayne with a physical therapy group, and came up there and had absolutely nothing. We had no money, and so I worked for this group for let's see, November until I think March, and I kept seeing how much money was going through, but I wasn't getting paid hardly anything. And so I left them, and I took a chance, went on my own, and developed a business that had a pretty good career with that. Did a lot of stuff. I think the main thing I did is that I gave people a chance in this business to open clinics, and gave them a chance to get a salary, and also a chance to make money depending on how productive they were. And so I did well from that angle. But the big thing was, for me, was the sports medicine thing that we started. Had a lot of good relationships with that, and I think we helped a lot of people. But the main thing was that we started a Saturday morning walk-in clinic during football season, with a walk-in clinic called ReadyMed in Fort Wayne, and it started out where we had a couple teams. Bishop Dwenger would send their players, and then all of a sudden, about the third week of this, they started pulling up with school buses, and Saturday turned into Sunday. We spent the whole day taking care of kids that got hurt, never charged any of the kids, and just provided a service to them. And then we got, watched it progress to where we've got trainers now covering, got Fort Wayne Orthopedics involved, and we got a lot of the kids, a lot of the schools coverage wise, trainers going all around coverage of the games, and having orthopedic guys at the games. And so to watch that grow has been a fun thing to see.
How long was your dad? I'm assuming your dad is no longer with us. How long was your dad with you?
He passed away in 2004, and gosh, he was great my whole life. He'd play. I come home and he had hit flies to me, hit grounders to me, play basketball with me. He couldn't play football. They didn't even have football at Greencastle, and so he wasn't going to let me play football. And finally, there was no peewee football. He didn't let me play peewee football. He thought I was going to get hurt all the time. And so we were playing, I can't remember, I think it was Rockville, but anyway, I finally talked him into playing my 8th grade year, and I was a running back. And because we played harder football in the backyard with no pads, did with pads. But I remember I got a pitch out, I was a running back, and I went around the end, a huge hole. I ran through the hole, and running down the field, it was like 80 some yards. And as I see out of the corner of my eye running down the fence on the outside of the field was my dad running along beside me as I ran into the end zone, and he's standing there and jumping up and down. And I never had any problem with playing football after that. He enjoyed it, and I had a fun career. I played with a guy named Raymond Churchill, who was so very good. He ended up playing for University of Iowa, and man, was he a great running back. And so he graduated, and I got to wear his number the next year. And but I had over 1,000 yards rushing my senior year, which was pretty neat. We had a good team, and again, my great friend Dwayne Norris was a quarterback, and what a player he was. So football was a great sport and a great learning experience, and it toughened me up. And it was tough making the transition for the first couple of games of basketball, because I was still playing football. I played my first 2 or 3 games of the season like I was playing football, but after that, was able to make the transition. But what a great experience I had through all 3 sports.
How did you enjoy your time in Columbus at Ohio State?
Golf. My wife was working, and I went to class and then played golf. I just even between classes, I would go over to the Scarlet course at Columbus and hit balls, and I just got obsessed with the game, and spent a whole lot of. That's about all I could afford to do, was go hit balls. I couldn't afford hardly to pay any green fees or anything anywhere, but I sure spent a lot of time practicing and learning how to play. And then later like I said, I got to play a lot of good things in Indiana golf tournaments and meeting all those great people. And I qualified, got to play in the North-South Amateur, and probably one of the most embarrassing moments in my whole sports career was I qualified for the Western Amateur, which was a big tournament in Benton Harbor, Michigan. And so I got up on the first tee, and I'm playing with a guy named Joel Hirsch, who was the #1 amateur in America, and a guy named Wayne Player, who was Gary Player's son. And so Joel hit first, and then I got up on the tee, and I went to tee it up, and my hand shaking so daggone bad, that ball wouldn't stay on the tee. They had a grandstand behind the first tee, and it's like they announce your name, and so Jay Frye from Fort Wayne, Indiana. I put that ball down, the ball wouldn't stay on the tee, and I thought I was either going to wet my pants or just fall over and faint in front of all these people. And finally, Joel came up and picked the ball up for me and set the ball on the tee so I could hit it, because I could hear people giggling in the background, and it was, I played basketball in front of thousands of people, never got nervous, but golf's it's a different bird. You stand up there, you're all alone, and if he hadn't put that tee on the ball, I'd have still been standing there all these years later. But as he put it on there, he said, I always remembered this from that point on. He says, always tee up before they announce your name. As soon as the other guy hits, he said, run up and put your tee in the ground before they announce your name. So I always remembered that. But I got to play in a lot of neat things, Canadian amateur and North-South amateur, and a lot of but gosh, there's a lot of great players in Indiana that I got to hang out and play with, and had a fun time with that.
You ever played golf with Jack Hogan?
No, I haven't. I'm going to. Jack Hogan and Dale Barrett play in Indianapolis at, I think, Meridian Hills, and I know the pro Todd Firestone there. So we've talked about that here lately. But the other day, I think Dale Barrett he's 75 and shot his age in that cold Indiana weather. So I'm negotiating shots right now, see how many shots are going to give me. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to getting up there and play with that.
How does the Fort Wayne Fury come about?
This was, I think, 1990. One of my great friends, Denny Sutton, came to me. Denny's an attorney in Fort Wayne, and Denny played basketball in northern Indiana. Well, became DePauw at Waterloo. He played at Waterloo, and then he went on and played down in Louisiana at go blank right now. I'll think of the name of the school in a minute, but he was a great, really great basketball player, good scorer, and another attorney named Mac Parker. And so they had gotten the rights to a CBA expansion team and asked if I wanted to join them in ownership, and of course I did. Well, we had just bought a minor league baseball team in the Class A league in Wausau, Wisconsin, and sold that because we couldn't get a stadium built in Fort Wayne. So we turned to basketball, got that, and expansion team, and played at the Coliseum, and got it started in 1991, and just had a great run for the next 10 years with that. That was an experience that I miss a lot now. We sold the league, unfortunately, to Isaiah Thomas, who ruined it. And I can't think of anything good I could like to say about Isaiah, although I try to say something good about most people, but for the life of me, I can't say one good thing about him, except his basketball talent, but that's as far as it goes. But anyway, we developed a franchise there that was an incredible experience. I think it was a great experience for the town. We did so many things outside. I had, like I said, 27 players that went on to the NBA, 7 coaches. Terry Stotts, Terry was we gave him his first job, coaching job, and he went on from there. He went to Seattle with George Karl, and then he became a head coach and ended up so far his career at Portland, where he was a coach for 11 years. Still talk with Terry all the time. The whole time he's coaching, I'd talk to him after games, and we would argue whether you were supposed to foul with a 3-point lead with 5 seconds left or less. So we went back and forth for years on that. And then, gosh, I gave Keith Smart, we gave him his first coaching job. He played for us, but with so many, Damon Bailey played with us for 6 years, and what a great experience that was. And so we just had a great time. One of my greatest friends in my life now is a guy named Clifford Ray, who played for Golden State when they won a championship. We're in touch almost every day, and Rick Barry coached for us. But my gosh, some of the players we had were so daggone good. Jaren Jackson, but some of the really great things about this whole thing was what we did with the community. We created I had a partner that came on after the first 2 years, a partner, Jay Leonard, and I bought controlling interest of the team, majority interest. I had majority. Jay had a lesser part, but he and I and our wives, Jay Leonard's wife Ann, my wife Cheryl, and Damon Bailey and his wife Stacy, we started a thing for cancer kids, and we had a thing every year where we brought the terminally ill cancer kids in, and for Christmas, and we had the parents come in, and we combined with Sears, and we had a great party with all the kids and Santa Claus there, but we'd give each family $250, $350 to go shop and buy Christmas presents. And one of the kids at that party even got buried with a Fury uniform on. So you talk about something that'll jerk your heart out of your life. That experience with those kids was unbelievable. But the things we brought in kids from the inner city, a lot of the Black kids in the community, one of the ministers would help us do that. Gosh, we averaged 5,000 people a game. We had over 1.5 million people over the years attend games there. I got the experience of being the interim commissioner of the CBA on 2 occasions. And so the whole thing was an unbelievable experience for my wife, Cheryl, and I, and for the people that were involved in it. I mean, you start thinking about some of the players that were there, Jay Edwards, Greg Neal, Craig's great friends, Lloyd Daniels calls me every Father's Day. Gosh, we had so many really good players and gave them opportunities. That was an unbelievable experience in my life. I'm sorry that experience didn't last longer.
Was it sad to get out of it, or why did you
Yeah,
decide to get out of it?
Because Isaiah Thomas bought the league, and so we were part of the league, and we had to sell. I didn't want to sell it, but then I worked.
A bump in the road. You still there? We have hit a bump in the road. There we go. All right, you back there with me still? I'll have to do some editing. There we go. Technology, isn't it great? May have to hit that audio button down there on the bottom of the phone there. There we go. It's connected. Can you hear me again? Oh, the fun. I'll edit this out, by the way.